Hello and welcome back to GameSpot's coverage of E3 2015. My main man Nathan Vella's here.
What is going on,
and
Danny?
you brought Chris
Yep.
Wachowski.
Hey.
Pleasure to see you again, sir. I had no idea you were coming, but why not? It's basically your game. He's just riding on its coattails.
Yeah, that's exact. That is literally the summary of Cappy.
That's how Cappy works.
Yes, yes.
It's
Pretty
your,
much.
yeah, you're wrangling up indie developers and making them work for you.
No, we just get the people who are better than me at everything, and then I take as much credit as possible.
Yeah. And you make great video games. And another
you very
video
much.
game people have been looking forward to. Feels like a year or two now, 2 years.
Oh yeah, it's been a couple.
Yeah,
it's been a couple.
Below, and you're going to play it right here. In fact.
Yeah. Chris is gonna guide. He's gonna drive. And yeah, live demo is
I'll
our
do my
favorite way to
best.
show the game. We love kind of just bringing the game and playing it and watching Chris. You know, he's really good at the game because he's the design director of it, but he's probably going to die anyways because the game is quite challenging and brutal, but fair.
But that's the point, right? So
It is.
Below is a sort of would exploration roguelike be sort of?
Yeah, it's a game about exploration, about survival, about discovery. It's inspired by roguelikes. It's inspired by adventure games. It's a game where you play this tiny wanderer arriving at this big island, walking through a door and ending up in the depths. And we don't really tell you why you're there or what you're supposed to do. The game really is about exploring. You're exploring the caves, but you're also exploring the combat, the systems, the crafting. It's a game that really, at every turn, the player is going to be left on their own to figure them out for themselves.
So I guess these types of games are often very sort of they're mechanically, everything mechanic is up front. Like what you guys seem to be doing here is almost making one of these games that is just not maybe hiding that, but is definitely pushing forward a sense of mood and
yes. I mean, everything that we make, we approach with aesthetics, we approach with style. That's the thing that really excites us about the video game medium is creating stuff that looks a way that we want something to look. And when we were starting the project, Chris had this idea of doing, like, 1080p screens are amazing and they're big and they have a ton of pixels. And most people use them to get higher res textures and fidelity. And so Chris's idea was to think about it in terms of like the screen size as a level and what a single screen dungeon game would be on a 1080p monitor. And so we thought, well, we'll pull the camera back, we'll use depth of field, we'll really try to create a game that has a very different, almost like you're looking into a little terrarium.
Yeah.
Alive but small. And part of that is because your character is very weak, but it's also very capable, very nimble. You have, as you go through the depths, you can craft, and crafting is a very important part of survival. Chris just showed some of the crafting. And you're crafting to be able to, keep yourself alive, to give yourself the tools that you want. You have a sword and a shield. You can kind of duck behind your shield. You can poke around your shield, and that's the basic combat. You can also put one other weapon. There's something. Yeah, let's get some snacks.
Nick Scarpino just turned up on the set and gave
Let's
me
get some
chocolate.
snacks.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, you need some food to survive, right?
Right,
That's
exactly, yeah.
He cued it in. You're bringing it back around.
Perfect. So explain sort of the gameplay of what's happening right here, what Chris is doing.
So Chris is in one of the levels of the dungeon. This is entirely procedurally generated. Every time you come to the depths, the dungeon generates anew. There are landmarks in the dungeon that don't change, but the whole flow, all the levels are procedurally generated and different every time you arrive. And so what Chris is doing is he's tentatively almost exploring. He's making sure that he's not taking any silly risks. He's got his magical lantern on, which he can, use, or he can pick up a torch, because also the game is very dark, and light is a very important piece of it.
And line of sight seems to be very important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about not taking any unnecessary risks. It's really about trying to figure out what the best approach to combat scenarios are. If you get hit in a combat scenario, you start bleeding. And like in real life, if you don't deal with a wound, you will eventually bleed to death. So in Below, you are essentially one hit away from death at every turn.
Right.
And that's the game. The game will punish you for making unnecessary mistakes, but you don't have to do that. You can figure out for yourself how to avoid those kind of nasty situations.
Can we have a look at some of that UI stuff, the little menu that's popping? What's in there?
So you have a couple of different types of crafting in the game. One part of the crafting is crafting that you can do at any point. Another part is crafting that you can only do at fire, and that's cooking. That's how you create soups. And soups are kind of like Below's potions. And by figuring out the recipes, you can kind of stock yourself up for the long trip down.
Right.
You also can pick up different weapons and very kind of like special items. And you can fill up your lantern so that you can reveal parts of the game like what Chris is revealing right now. And this is, it's a game that has a story. It's a game that has lore. But we don't have any text or dialogue in the game. We don't have any kind of like moments of exposition where we are forcing you to see the story. We just put hints in, put little things for attentive players to find. And even though we have our own story for the game, we're really hoping that players will craft their own narrative for it. We're hoping that we put enough little breadcrumbs of story that maybe they'll find what we're looking to tell them. But if they come up with something different and cooler, that's actually kind of rad too.
Excellent, open to interpretation. So as a game where you can die in one hit, what's it like resetting? Are you carrying over anything?
So the way that death works in Below is that you're playing a sequence of lives. It's not the same life over and over again. It's not this kind of like reset. The dungeon itself has things that persist through every life. And so any like major accomplishments with one life, you can build upon them with your next life. Then you show up as a completely different wanderer, dressed differently. You might be female, you might be male,
Excellent.
you might not really be able to tell. But each time you get to build upon the success. But there are many things in the game that there are only one of.
Right.
Which means that, let's say you die with your lantern. There is a magical lantern in Below. So if you want that magical lantern, you need to be able to find your corpse to pick that lantern back up. And the game will give you some hints as to, like, there is a mini map. It will show you where the lantern is, but there's it's very much about you finding your way back to your body. If you want to, you don't even have to. And again, it's a game that we're trying to create a sense of delving deeper, but also a sense of control and agency for the player.
So what is the end game then? Is this a game where, at the end there is a massive climactic boss and then that's it, and then there's no reason to keep playing, or?
That I can say very much no.
Okay.
We really hope that this is a game that has enough secrets and depth to it that there will be multiple ways for players to find their way to the end game. And even the end game itself, it's part of the exploration is figuring out why you're even in these caves, what your goal is, and why you're pushing through the depths, why you're trying to go below. And so even the end game it's something that I'm really excited to see the first player get there.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to tell anyone what it is.
Excellent. It's going to be interesting, I guess, seeing the internet unravel the game, and you guys have had that happen before with Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery. And
Definitely. I mean, Sorcery, we were very explicit about the story. We told that story.
Yes.
But there was a lot in that game for people to find, whether it was through being able to tweet out lines of dialogue in the game, or whether it was through the megatome, kind of keeping track of the character's thoughts. In Below, we're actually hoping that goes over to the player, that the player will, take their own mental notes about landmarks in the game or story elements that they notice or things that they might not want to explore this time but really want to explore the next time. It's that, like, we really want to build a game that has these systems that interact in an interesting way that cause the player to want to discover, and to feel like they are the ones that created that discovery, rather than to feel like we grabbed them by the hand and dragged them along to what that we wanted them to discover.
You're playing on a PC dev kit here. This coming out on Xbox One as well?
Yeah, it's coming out on PC and Xbox One.
It's not part of ID at Xbox.
It is ID at Xbox, yeah.
What's that process been like, actually, working on Microsoft?
I mean, it's great. The game started out as a Microsoft Studios title before ID at Xbox existed. And when Chris Charla started ID at Xbox, we kind of went to Microsoft and said, hey, this is probably a better fit for our game. As an independent developer, we were funding our own title, and they totally agreed. They were very supportive of it. And since then, I mean, they've been supportive of the game from day one, from the producers all the way up to Phil Spencer. They've been really great about the game. They've been great partners, and we're really excited to be able to bring it to Steam as well.
That's cool, and people are excited to play it as well. It's one of those games that whenever people see it, they're like, oh yeah, God, I hope that's coming out soon.
Yeah, we definitely have heard that at E3. That is the common question, and we're doing our best to get it out as soon as possible. We're hoping that we can hit later this year or early next year, but really, like, it's a deep game, and we have to excavate the project while we're actually building the depths. We have to, and sometimes you hit those really challenging layers that take a little bit more time to figure out. And as developers, giving ourselves the time to figure out our game, that's the best way that we end up with a project that we can speak to fans honestly about, that we can, when we talk about it, they can tell that we're not full of shit, that we actually love the thing that we've made. And we love this game. We really do. It's a game, like Chris and I talk about it all the time. It's a game that we made for ourselves. I mean, this thing came from there and ended up there, and that's the shit that we love at Cappy. That was Time Force. That was Sword and Sorcery. That was Clash of Heroes. That was Critter Crunch. Like, we've really worked hard to get to that point, and the fact that the fans have supported us, and the fact that we can have partners and players that are interested. Yep. I mean, if you look at it, Super Time Force, which is coming to PS4 and Vita very soon, you can play as Shuhei Yoshida, you can play as the Traveler from Journey, you can play as Sir Galahad from the Order. Super Time Force to Below, those are some extremely different games.
Yeah, totally.
Right? But they're
a Critter Crunch.
Yeah, extremely different game. And that's what excites us. And we really hope that we've seen players that have noticed that the thread through Cappy Games isn't necessarily a genre, but it's like a style, a feel, and hopefully a commitment to making interesting, or at least we believe interesting shit.
I think that's why people are excited to play it, and that's certainly why I'm excited. And Nathan, Chris, thank you so much. Great to see you guys as ever.
Thanks a lot for having us, Danny.
No worries.
It's been a long show for you, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we're almost done.
Yep, you got like 3 or 4 more of these, but you've been killing it. Keep it up, man.
Thanks very much, dude.
Real pleasure,
enjoy the trip back up north.
We will.
Enjoy a bit of LA, first of all.
Thank you very much.
Because just leaving Chris hanging here. I'm sorry, buddy. You're just over there in your own little world. And thanks to you for watching, of course, on GameSpot.com, on the YouTube E3 Hub, and of course on Hitbox. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more games in just a minute.